Hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Ray Bradbury. If you've not subscribed to our channel yet, this would be a great time to do that. Thank you. So here on Let's Talk Ray Bradbury, we've been slowly working through the collection, These Stories of Ray Bradbury. We are nearing the end. We are up to story number 94 of 100, which is Interval of Sunlight from 1954. The way these videos work is I do a brief synopsis of the action and the plot of the story, and then wrap up with my sort of thoughts and feelings about what the whole thing means. As for that synopsis, an American husband and wife, Joseph and Mary, are traveling in Mexico. The story opens with them lugging their baggage into a motel, including, importantly, Marie's typewriter. Joseph immediately begins to complain. This is what he does throughout the story. First, it's the hardness of the bed, and he blames Marie for not having chosen a better place. Joseph is just getting over strep, so you might find it understandable that he's a little bit grouchy, but it's more than that. But he did drive all day, and he's whining, and he just wants to go to sleep. But he's always like this now. He complains about everything. When she goes out to get sodas, he complains that she brought back Coke. And he also wonders, did you pay too much for it? And then he says he wants Orange Crush. She goes out and gets Orange Crush, brings it back. He says it's Orange Crush, but it's too warm. So nothing is quite ever right. But I know mostly he just complains about money, how much they spend on things. At one point they go out shopping, and he demands that they haggle over the price. Says that they expect to haggle, they mark things up double, and then you try to bring the price down. She reveals that he's so proud about having haggled for something, and she reveals that I stuck a $5 bill or a 5 peso bill in with the ones, and you didn't realize it. And he says, you're going to pay me back for that. And he's keeping a running tab of all the expenses on the trip, his and hers, which is really weird because they are a married couple and it should all be together. But Marie is a writer, and she's just recently made her first big sale to a magazine, and this has been gnawing at Joseph. He's always been tight with money, but now he's demanding more and more of her money, goes back to him, and he seems to be obsessed with this idea that she owes him something. The highlight of the stop on the trip is to be a visit to a volcano, and while Joseph is sleeping, Mary goes out and arranges a taxi to come pick them up to take the trip the next day. When the taxi driver shows up at 3 a.m. Instead of 3 p.m., Joseph throws a freaking fit. Marie gets angry herself, picks up a glass of water and throws it in his face. She lets him have it. Just stay here. You don't need to go. He complains about, you're going to make me sick again and all of this, but reluctantly he throws on his clothes and goes anyway because he can't bear to let her go and do something on her own. And that's really one of the big sections of the story. It's internal monologue with Marie. She talks about having, over the last 5 years, rarely spent any time alone. He's always there, always demands to be keeping an eye on her, and basically her only escape is maybe a couple hours a day at the typewriter. So anyway, they take their ride out to the volcano. The taxi driver drops them at a certain point. They get on horses with a larger group. And even about this, he's complaining. She's talking to a bunch of American tourists instead of him, and she basically says, I'd like to hear some American voices for a little while. We've been here several weeks in Mexico, and, it's nothing to be concerned about. And now that they've had this money discussion where she basically says, take all the money, I don't give a crap. He starts in on her typewriter, complaining about the time she spends alone writing, and it becomes clear that that's really where his jealousy lies, is that she has this place in her mind at the typewriter, her creative time, where she can escape from him and sort of be doing her own thing, her own world that he can't see, except for on the page perhaps later. And that's really the crux of the story. But they visit the volcano. They see the fire by night. It's beautiful. But he's jealous of her still. And the next day, while he's back in the hotel sleeping through most of the vacation, she decides to leave him, and she doesn't even take her typewriter. She leaves that with him, packs a bag real quick, and takes off. Along the way, the bus breaks down. And a man stops along the road, picks her up, drives her back to town. She decides that she can't leave. She gets to the hotel, and he never even realized that she was gone. Yeah, this is a wonderful story, and I know I didn't do it any real justice with my synopsis. It's a type of story where you really can't do much justice with the synopsis because there's so much internal monologue, and so much of it is mood and atmosphere and sort of building tension. But it is a good story. Take my word for it. One of the best in this collection. It is also a very true story, I think, about bad possessive relationships. And in this case, it's bad on both sides, I think. His jealousy, it is overblown. He shouldn't be so controlling of her. But at the same time, we find out that she is prone to fits of explosive violence and throws things and raises her hand and slaps him, which is, I found surprising in this story. But at the same time, writing is this sort of weird thing where Bradbury was certainly talking about his own life because he was known for being a prolific writer, and he sort of demanded that the way to write is to write constantly. And so he wrote hours and hours a day, even up into his 90s. And so I think that there is something to be said about the jealousy of, or the selfishness of the writing life if you devote long hours to it, which are probably necessary for most people to succeed at writing. But to do that, you do create a distance between you and a loved one, and it's not surprising that can fester in the loved one if nothing is done to sort of explain it and to set some boundaries. So I think that's definitely something that's in play in this story. Joseph and Marie as names, very similar, Joseph and Mary, and there's some religious allusions in the story. Can't be a coincidence, but the meaning of it, I was sort of leaning towards the idea that Mary, she births creativity, or her creations, and it must have been hard for, you figure, imagine being Joseph, and your wife, your virgin wife, apparently, has given birth to the Son of God, and it's not really yours, and you're being asked to nurture and to raise it until it dies. It's a very weird ask, and I think there is certainly some connection to the creative process, the way that a work of art is nurtured and brought to life over many, many hours and then sent out into the world, and how that makes the creator feel, but also the ones around them. I think it's a very interesting way of explaining this relationship between creativity and those who are outside of the creation. I think that's definitely something that Bradbury was thinking about here. But yeah, wonderful story. I know I don't do it any justice in this video, but I'm trying, so give me a break. But yeah, we are up to story number 95 of 100 now, with just 6 left to go. We'll be looking at The Black Ferris from 1948. Please tune in, and we'll talk about that together in a couple of days. See you later.